Classic WoW hardcore has been exploding in recent time. Everybody's playing it. The streamers, the casual players, the hardcore players, they're all hopping on the trend. People who haven't played the game in a long time, they're hopping on hardcore. People who've never even played WoW before are trying out hardcore as their first experience. But with all these players all in this one server, there's a lot of in-game politics and drama, and even some catastrophes. But the question we're asking today is the hardcore community falling apart before the servers even come out. So let's talk about what's going on, and I'll give some of my opinions on some things, and I'll go into detail on some things, and for other things, I'll try to just keep it brief. My apologies if I forget anything major. I'm just talking about the things that mostly interest me and I have opinions on. Now let's start by talking about what hardcore even is in the first place alone. All right, that question alone, we've already started an argument amongst the masses. In the current add-on, you're only allowed to party up for dungeons, and you're only allowed to do those dungeons one time until you hit level 60. And there's absolutely no trading, auction house, mailbox, none of that until you hit level 60, but even then you can only trade, and you can trade freely at level 60. Now the argument is that these rules are only in place because we can't control who plays on Blizzard servers. If they allowed trading, there would be people trading with non-hardcore players, and bots would just be running around everywhere. Now Blizzard announced their rule set that will be forced on the official hardcore realms, and the arguments started to stir. So on official realms, it looks like there's going to be no restrictions on trading and partying, but the dungeons will have a daily lockout. Now, I'm not as invested in these servers as I know some people will be, but for the most part, I kind of like these rules. I feel like the rules are good. I think trading and grouping is fine as long as everybody and all the loot that is involved is hardcore and nobody's died along the way. I know a lot of people won't agree with this, but for me, the perfect way for this server to be done would be for it to have been a super unique RP server. I'd allow free trading and grouping. You can do all that you want, but the dungeons and raids, they only have one lockout ever. They never reset, no weekly, no daily, nothing. I just think it'd be funny to see if maybe a guild could possibly beat Kel'Thuzad and beat Naxxramas with only one chance at loot. I don't really know if it would work out. I haven't thought about it too much, but I just want to see if it would happen. It'd be kind of funny. Because if you kind of think about it, on the hardcore servers, you only have one life, and if you die, you're dead for good. So why shouldn't dungeon bosses and raids also have that same mechanic where they also only have one life? They're also hardcore on this server. Now, I know everybody won't agree with that, and that's fine, but hey, that's my idea for what would be fun. I think everybody should be able to play how they want to play. That's fine, all right? What I don't like is when people flip the definition of hardcore. Because a lot of people, you see, they just want to play solo self-found, which is also fine, but not when you want to force everybody else on the server to play solo self-found for you to have fun. Solo self-found is a personal challenge. Hardcore is something you can do with other people. So it doesn't hurt to have other hardcore people playing on a server where you're doing solo self-found. But it does hurt to force solo self-found on a server where people want to play together. Another big subject of debate has been appeals. Appeals have been a big part of the hardcore community so far, and I definitely feel it's needed for griefing and, bugs and disconnects. Now, there is people who will abuse the appeal system, but there are people who legitimately died to something that was out of their control and wasn't their fault. But Blizzard has told us that on the official realms, there will be no appeals. They don't have the resources, if only there was a team out there of people who are doing appeals on a hardcore server that Blizzard could hire. If only there was that team out there. But there's not. So that means when you're being a moron and you die in Dire Maul, you can't just put in a ticket and say it's a bug anyway. Because if you die on official, you will never resurrect. And I think Blizzard saying this had maybe encouraged another set of players. That's a problem we should talk about. The griefers. Now, griefers have been a big part of hardcore for some time now. Whether it's a stealth rogue trying to bait you so that you attack them and then they can kill you super easily, or it's a hunter dragging an elite mob across the continent so that he can kill people in low-level zones. Or maybe it's another rogue and he's stealthed waiting for you to turn in a quest that'll flag you for PvP and he can kill you and get away with it. No matter what it is, these griefers were running around like terrorists. But But I will give it to Blizzard. They're doing a fair enough job at changing up some systems to combat these griefers. Like now, you can't fight another player unintentionally. You have to purposefully turn on PvP before you can attack another player. And if a hunter's trying to kite a mob around, well, he can't take it out of that zone. So there will be no more dragons being dragged out of blasted lands to be taken to Stormwind. There will be no more Duskwallow Marsh dragons taken to the Barrens either. These changes will be good, and they'll combat 99% of griefers. But what we didn't account for was that hardcore would bring out some real monsters, some real psychopaths. Like you thought the guy from South Park was bad. Nah, these people, they're real. Because there was an incident in the Flying Necropolis of Naxxramas. Now, I don't want to get too much into the morals of what happened, of if they were right or wrong in what they did, but there was a gentleman in hardcore WoW who joined a guild, raided with them weekly, learned, progressed with them, taught them stuff when he knew more than them. He even played other games that weren't WoW with them on random nights. And this man waited until the guild was on the final night of progressing Naxxramas. And keep in mind, no guild had beaten the raid in hardcore yet, and on the 4 horsemen, he perfectly executed the ultimate grief, killing 36 out of the 40 members of the group. And why not on Kel'Thuzad, the final boss? Well, Zeliek. He pretty much has an ability that doesn't care if you use petrification. He just kills you anyway. So he knew that his raid members couldn't get away, and this was the only opportunity. Now, Blizzard said they're going to have a no-tolerance policy when it comes to griefing and hardcore. And they've already been griefing a ton of players on the unofficial hardcore servers. So I don't know if this guy's going to get banned, because obviously he's playing it off like he didn't grief. But in total, it feels like the number of griefers have already lessened, unless they're trying to gain an army together for official that we haven't seen yet. So who knows if that guy is going to get banned. He did get banned off of Twitch though. And talking about that whole incident reminded me of another hardcore political debate. The flask of petrification. Should it be allowed? Does it take away from the spirit of hardcore to have that safe button just in case? Now, I kind of think, yeah, it does. But at the same time, I don't really think it's a big deal. I think if anything, they should make it be on the same cooldown as your other potions. So you can't just spam it if you mess it up the first time, and it actually could mess up and you could still die even if you have it. But again, it's not a big deal to me either way. But another big problem I think that hardcore has in the add-on era is people cheating. And when I say cheating, I don't mean Bag Jones getting a bunch of 10 slots. I'm talking about people whose characters did die and either did some workaround on the add-on or messed with the add-on's files to say that they never died. And I've seen it, and I've heard many accounts of this happening. But unofficial, this won't happen, because when you die, you just can't resurrect. But it also weed out more players, because they'll be stuck at the lower levels now. So in my opinion, I think Classic WoW faces a huge problem with all these things put together. With no appeals and griefers getting permanently banned, it doesn't really leave a lot of room for drama. And if I know anything about Classic WoW, if there's no drama, nobody's gonna talk about the game. And sure, all the streamers and content creators are gonna play the launch, and the masses will come from the hype. But how much of the community will be left on these servers after a month? After 6 months? After a year? Does anybody see Blizzard keeping these servers up for multiple years? Now, before we go today, I do want to talk a little bit more about my personal thoughts on hardcore and my plans for playing official hardcore. I've never really taken hardcore serious while it's been on the add-on, just because of there being other non-hardcore players on the server. I didn't really see the point. And I also decided I'm not going to take hardcore official very serious either. Hardcore is a game mode that to me, every character feels 99% like it's going to be a waste of time because I'll die. But hey, if I'm not taking it serious and I'm just trying to get content and have a good time and make some friends along the way, then maybe it's not a waste of time if I'm making memories and having fun. I plan to play a warrior at first and maybe tank some dungeons, but I fully expect to die, and when I do die, I'm going to play it safe and I'm going to make a hunter and I'm going to enjoy myself and try to get some fun weapons and kill bosses and maybe get some cool loot like the Ravager axe. Since warriors don't need it, they can get Bone Biter, which is better. But yeah, maybe I'll one day decide to just play it safe and go all the way to 60. But if I ever get to 60, I'm never stepping foot in a raid because I don't want my character to die. Anyways, if you made it this far in the video, let me know your plans for hardcore or if you just don't care at all about it. See ya.